Okay, here we go. I'm going to do a little lecture from the NCCER Module 27-101 concerning the orientation to the carpentry trade. As you can tell, it's summer vacation right now, so just doing this sort of in preparation for this upcoming school year. Students, you should have a worksheet to be going over. If you don't have that, you need to get it before you go any further. The worksheet will be graded for a quiz grade, and we will be having a test over this in just a couple of days, probably tomorrow. So here we go. The first thing I want to do is give you guys a little idea of what we're going to be hoping to accomplish today. This is also known as a chapter objectives. I want you to be able to talk a little bit about the history of the carpentry trade, identify characteristics that are needed to be successful as a carpenter, identify training opportunities in the carpentry trade. By the way, this is a training opportunity right here in this classroom that you're taking. Identify the responsibilities working in the carpentry trade, and also I want you to be able to explain a little bit about safety and its importance in the construction industry. Okay, now what is NCCER? NCCER is the National Center for Construction Education and Research. It's a national organization whose main goal is to establish a consistent training program across the country. If you complete these modules and you get that Carpentry 1 card, you should be able to take that anywhere in the country and show it, and it'll mean something to a company that subscribes to the NCCER training program. I want you to pay special attention to this right here. It's in the black. This is a competency-based program. NCCER is a competency-based program. Credentials are given based on what a trainee can do. Not so much what they know and can regurgitate on a piece of paper, but what they can do with their hands and their tools. So remember that. So basically, it's just an apprenticeship program for non-union companies. Okay, a little bit about the history. Primitive carpentry began in the latter part of the Stone Age in the wooded regions. Obviously, it had to be in the wooded regions. If you don't have wood, you can't do any carpentry work. So early humans used stone tools to shape and work wood for various purposes. Moving along a little bit, between 2000 and 4000, early Egyptians developed copper tools. And using these copper tools, they were able to construct furniture. They used wood in some of their buildings. They made vaults. So that the Egyptians were pretty advanced as far as what they did with the copper tools and with wood. And one other thing you need to be aware of is that iron tools have been around for 2,000 years. Make sure you remember that. In the Middle Ages, carpentry began to move towards specialization. Specialization just means that rather than one person doing all the trades, people would specialize in one trade. So you may have one guy and he does only masonry work, and another guy that does only roofing, another guy that does only carpentry. That's what specialization is. And that came about during the Middle Ages. This is also the period that the term master builder and journeyman came into being. And what that meant was, if you were a journeyman, that meant that you had attained a level of skill that you could journey away from the master and do work on your own. So that's why they call him a journeyman. One other thing that was pretty interesting to me is this tool, which is a bit, well, it doesn't have the bit in it, but this is called a brace. And this is a plane. These were both developed around this time. So it's pretty interesting to me that these tools are still in use, and they were developed during the Middle Ages. Let's talk a little bit about commercial carpentry and what commercial carpenters do. One thing that they do is form work. This right here is a wall form. You can see towards the back they've already poured part of the wall. Now they've just moved it down and reset the form, and they'll come back and pour concrete into that. That's something that a commercial carpenter does, is set up form work. They build scaffolds. Okay, so you can see this scaffold. I'm not sure what that building is, but it almost looks like Tinker Toys or something there. The walkways and the bracing going up and down, that was done by a commercial carpenter. Steel framing, it's pretty unique to see a home that's constructed with steel framing, but I thought that was a pretty neat picture there. We do a little bit of steel framing in here, just depends on what we've got going on. But yeah, that's something a commercial carpenter would do. Trim carpentry, any kind of hanging doors, baseboards, crown mold that goes up towards the ceiling, any kind of casing that goes around a window, trim that goes around a window, that's something a commercial carpenter does. They also may hang sheetrock, drop ceiling, installation of door hardware, door and window installation, building layout and installation, and much more. Now, residential carpentry is a little bit different. A residential carpenter is constructing a residence. So we're going to talk just a minute about what a residential carpenter does. Trim carpentry and sheetrock hanging, drop ceiling installation, installation of door hardware, door installation, building layout. A lot of the same things that a commercial carpenter does. They also do some roofing and demolition. To me, a residential carpenter is a more well-rounded carpenter. They just do more complicated, interesting things to me. Unfortunately, they don't make as much money. The lion's share of a residential carpenter's work is in framing and trim carpentry, though. So you can keep that in mind. Now, we've talked about two different types of carpenters. Let's talk about types of carpentry. We've got rough carpentry and finished carpentry. Rough carpentry, one of the things that will be included, I want you to remember this, is that rough carpentry is erecting the framework for houses or other buildings. That would be considered rough carpentry. Scaffolding, wooden formwork, or modular formwork for concrete pouring, or building docks, bridges, and support for tunnels and sewers. That would be termed as rough carpentry. Finished carpentry would be building stairs, installing windows and doors, paneling, molding, acoustical tile like we have on the ceiling here, and hardwood ceramic flooring installation. Pretty much anything that you can see in a house would be called finished carpentry, okay? That's finished work. It may not be finished carpentry, but it is finished work. If you can't see it, and that means it's behind the wall, that's going to be rough carpentry. So it's a pretty good rule of thumb. All right, carpentry work is active, it's strenuous work. It may require you to stand up for a long time. It may require you to squat, bend over, all kinds of stuff. Climbing, it's not going to require you to sit down for a long time, I can tell you that. It's a lot of work. In the summertime, you're outside and it's hot. In the wintertime, you're outside and it's cold. Sometimes it can be dangerous. You know, this is not for, this is for tough men. You know, usually when you see people in the construction industry, you know, they don't have on a suit and tie. A lot of times they haven't shaved. You might see a beard or something like that. They're tough guys for the most part because the job that they do is tough and it requires you to be strong and in good shape. Now, when you guys get into the industry, that's you're most likely to be hurt when you're young and new in the industry. So when you do go in, make sure that you watch the other people and learn from them, and don't get yourself hurt. Okay, you need to be strong. You need to have hand-eye coordination. You need the ability to perform mathematical computations. We do a lot of geometry. Carpentry is geometry. You guys have been in here for a while now. You should understand that. A lot of these computations have got to be done in your head. A lot of times you don't have time to pull out that little phone and punch it in. You got to pay attention to detail as a carpenter, and you need to be a responsible person with a high degree of dedication to safety and performing quality work. Okay, to be a good carpenter, it really takes a special person. But I know all of you have got it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. If you're interested, this is on the back of your Carpentry 1 book. But this is just an idea of the construction pathways. Basically got 2 paths. The craft is you start an apprenticeship or technical program, then you move up through the ranks, become a superintendent, then you can come back and start getting back into management. The other route that you can go is through a 4-year college or an apprenticeship, but most of the time this is a 4-year college route, and you're going to start out doing construction management, architecture, things of that nature. Pretty much if you go the management route, you'll be starting out in one of these 2 roles, okay? If you go through apprenticeship technical college, you're starting out as an apprentice and you'll start as a journeyman carpenter. So, all right, now at this time, I want you guys to open up your book and answer questions 13 through 23. Like I said, I'm going to be grading these, so go ahead and do that now. Obviously, you need to pause the video. Okay, just briefly on all these jobs. An apprentice is somebody that just got into the field. Journeyman's been in there for a while. They pretty well know what they're doing. A master carpenter, they should know their trade inside and out. They should be respected by their peers in the carpentry trade. And from there, you move on up. A foreman may have a crew of men under him, 6 or 8, depending on how many it is. And a superintendent is somebody that is responsible for a whole job. So they may have every carpenter on a job answers to them, or a superintendent may have every tradesperson on the job answering to them. Office employees would be a safety manager, project manager. A project manager handles a lot of the paperwork that go along with a construction project, and an estimator is someone that would count all the sticks and bricks in a construction project and then come up with a price for that. Finally, the decision makers, a little bit further on up the food chain, is architects. Architects design the building. General contractors are normally businesses that are responsible for the completion of the entire project. And construction managers, that's sort of a hybrid between general contractors and architects. They sort of do both. And the owner is the owner. You got to make the owner happy, right? Okay, let's talk just for a second about youth apprenticeship programs. That's what you guys are enrolled in right now, is a youth apprenticeship program. It's a program where high school students are allowed to earn industry recognized credentials. And you guys should understand this because you're in here. You've been here before. Most of your learning is hands-on. When you guys get out of here, especially if you go into the union, they'll give you a year or 2 credit just based on the work you've done here. If you go the non-union route, they'll give you some credit. You'll be starting out a little bit better off than somebody that just walked in the street that's never had any training. But generally in this area, the non-union contractors are not nearly as organized with their training, so they're not going to be nearly as organized as where they place you in that training. So that just is what it is. That's a youth apprenticeship program. And with an adult apprenticeship program, enrollees participate in classroom activities as well as on-the-job training. You would do classroom stuff, and you would apply that classroom stuff to hands-on activities. When you first enter the craft, apprentices are sort of paired up with the journeyman, and they follow that journeyman around. They're his helper. They do what he says to do, and they learn everything they can from him. So that if you are ever in that situation, my advice to you would be to learn from your journeyman that you're paired with, follow him around, absorb everything that you possibly can from him, and that will help you to move up the ranks a little bit faster. Don't go in with the attitude that you know everything. You know, don't. I know I've had Mr. Redford's carpentry class. I got this. I'm going to give you the basics, but you have got to understand that you won't know it all. You won't know near all of it when you get out of here. So you'll have to. Your education will have just begun when you get out of my class. All right. What is an apprentice? An apprentice is someone that has recently entered the carpentry trade, or it could be an electrician, it could be pipe fitters, whatever. An apprentice is somebody that's just entered. They're learning. They haven't mastered the skills that you need to be a journeyman. So they're going to be doing a lot more classroom stuff. Once you're a journeyman, you don't have to do near the amount of classroom instruction that you do when you're a carpenter. As an apprentice. A journeyman will have to do a lot less classroom instruction than an apprentice. But when you're an apprentice, your classroom instruction will total 144 hours per year. And your on-the-job training will total about 2,000 hours per year. So I want you to remember, this is important, that you remember that your classroom instruction does not equal your on-the-job training. That's one of the things that is, that's one of the characteristics of an apprenticeship training program. Okay, carpenter job characteristics. These are some things that we call soft skills that can help you get through your career and help you advance in your career. Guys, I really shouldn't have to explain why it's important to be honest. It just is important to be honest. Everybody knows the story of the boy that cried wolf, and I think in that story, the little boy, they came to check on him 3 or 4 times before they finally quit coming, and the wolf ate him up. But in real life, if you lie and get caught in it one time, then from that point on, people will question the things you say. So you don't get more than one chance in life. So be sure that you're always honest with your employer. It's much better to tell the truth and maybe get in a little bit of trouble than it is to lie, and then you could sacrifice your whole career. And that doesn't just apply to the workforce. That applies to relationships with your friends and family as well. Okay, professionalism. As a professional carpenter, it's important that we look the part, okay? I've seen carpenters that wake up and they think just because they're going on a construction job, they don't have to dress, and they would have on a ratty old pair of blue jeans with holes in it, stained up, just nasty looking, and an old t-shirt, you know, that should have been thrown away years ago, maybe even has big holes in it. If you're going to be a carpenter, dress like one. When I was in the field, I had carpenter jeans that I wore, and they were clean. Yeah, they did have some stain on them, but they were mostly clean. I wore a button-up shirt every day. In the wintertime, it was long sleeve. Summertime, it was short sleeve. And it was just a thick, rugged work shirt. And I wore a hat as well, similar to the one I have on now. But that was always something that was really important to me, is I looked professional. Somebody that's dressed like I just described is going to be taken a lot more seriously than someone that just picked up whatever they had on the bedroom floor that morning. Professionalism also extends to quality of work. If you want to exhibit professionalism, you need to do excellent work. You need to make sure you get the job done, and communicate with the people around you in a professional manner. Now, this is Alabama, and we're all from the South, and we all speak a Southern accent. There's nothing wrong with that. I love a Southern accent. But when we're on the job site and we're talking to our peers in the workplace, we don't need to come off sounding like a complete hick. You know, you can sound professional and still not betray your raisins, not betray the way you were brought up. Without sounding like a hick. Be cooperative with the people around you. And this is another thing. If you've got a problem at work and you need your boss to help you with it, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you continually come to your boss with a problem and no suggestion for how the problem can be solved, that kind of gets old. And the boss kind of begins to wonder, well, why do I even need this guy? He never has any solutions. So if you have a problem, take that to your boss. But also, okay, this is the problem. I think we should solve it like this. Even if he doesn't like your suggestion for solving the problem, he still will respect the fact that you at least tried to solve the problem or to help him solve it. Loyalty. You know, the generation that you guys are in my generation, is not as loyal to employers as past generations, and I'm really not sure that that's a good thing. I think, being 40 years old at this point, I can look back on my life and think, you know, if I had stayed in a job or two for a little bit longer, it would have really benefited me in the long run. You know, I didn't, so now now I wish I had. The job I'm in now, I plan to retire in. So my advice to you guys as young men entering the workforce, find a job that you like and stick with it. Stick with it for 8 or 9 years. You know, you don't have to stick with it for 20 years. Find a job and stick with it for a while. You'll learn more, and it'll work out better for you. You know, be loyal to your employer. Don't go out around town and tell everybody in the community about all the problems that you have in your workplace. You know, when you go out there, talk your job up. You know, hey, I got a good job. I got a good boss. We got some good things going on at their career academy up there. We just got a new school. We got some smart students. We got kids we got in the workforce. They graduate. When they come through our school, we get them a good job. That's the kind of thing we need to be saying about our employers in the workplace. If you feel like you need to gripe, go and gripe to your wife. She will not mind listening to it. Or gripe to your mother, you know, but just don't go out in the community. Be loyal to your employer. Okay, now this is a little video. It's called the Entitlement Creed. Some of you might have seen it before. We're going to watch this right quick, and I'll be right back.
deserve a job.
I deserve a job after graduation. I deserve a job after graduation because I earned it.
I deserve a job because I pay a lot of money to go to college.
I am entitled to a job because I've worked hard and gone to school.
I deserve a job after graduating. Absolutely.
I deserve it. I'm in grad school now.
An employer owes me a good job, decent benefits so that I can live, and health insurance.
A little over $25 an hour.
30 to 40,000 a year,
At least 40,000.
Oh, at least 60,000.
70 to 80,000 a year.
Like 100 grand, yeah.
I deserve 7 figures per year.
I am an employer.
I am an employer.
I am an employer, and I have jobs.
Good jobs.
Good job. And I'm hired.
But if you want to work for me,
You need to know how I really feel.
you see, I am entitled.
I am entitled.
I am entitled.
I'm entitled to you arriving here to the job on time.
Every day until the very last minute of your shift.
And if you're scheduled at 9,
And arrive at 9?
You're late.
I am entitled to being positive and enthusiastic as you approach the task you are assigned.
Regardless of what they are.
Or anything that may have happened to you before you came to work.
I get it. I have no right to say how you dress, communicate, or act on your own time. However, while you're at work, I'm entitled to you being a professional.
And acting and speaking like one.
Showing up dressed and groomed in a way that best represents this organization.
And the image that we need to project to our clients and to the world.
I'm entitled to you doing the work. You are paid to do to the very best of your ability.
And then some.
The only way this business is going to grow and provide opportunity for you to grow with it
Is if you're continually looking for ways to excel
Achieve.
Solve problems.
and add value whenever and wherever you can.
I'm entitled to your respect for my rules, whether or not you agree with them.
I want you to enjoy working here and like your manager.
But that's not a condition of your willingness to follow company policies.
I am entitled to the truth.
And yes, I can handle the truth.
So if you're not ill, please don't call in sick.
If you handle money or merchandise, every cent must be accounted for.
If you lie, cheat, steal, fudge,
Or hook a buddy up.
Even once.
The trust I need to have in you will forever be in question.
But it's our customers who are even more entitled.
They're the ones who pay our wages and keep this business running.
that entitles them to fast, friendly, and courteous service
From everyone in this organization.
So you need to go out of your way to show them how much we appreciate their business.
So if you agree to this list of entitlements, then you're not only entitled to a paycheck,
You're entitled to me living up to these same high standards.
But hey, if you feel like we're asking for too much,
Then you're entitled to look for another employer that will not ask these things of you.
But the odds of you finding one aren't good.
Okay, so that's a pretty good video. They touched on a lot of things we've talked about here and touched on some things I'm gonna go through. Reliability, you gotta be at work. If you wanna keep a job, you gotta be at work and you gotta be on time. If work starts at 9 and you get there at 9, you're late, okay? Work starts here at 8:06. When you guys walk in the door, I get here at 7:30, okay? You may catch me one day coming in right at 8. It very, very rarely happens, but if you do, you'll be able to see the difference. It's very important to be there on time. When is it okay to miss work? That's a good question. There is a couple of times when it's okay to miss work, but it shouldn't happen very often. It's okay to miss when you're sick, okay? If you're sick, nobody wants you at work. Nobody wants you at school if you're sick. If you're sick, stay home, because when you're sick, you transmit sickness to others, okay? if you have serious problems at home, you know, if you have a grandmother or a member of the family that's passed on, somebody that's in the hospital and just that's close to you, you know how to handle that. But the times you miss work for those reasons should be few and far between. If you've got a grandmother that's died if you've had about 5 or 6 grandmothers to pass away, something's wrong there. Shouldn't happen very often, like I say. And if you're ever going to miss work, you need to let your employer know, and as early as you possibly can. If possible, you don't need to call them the day of and say, hey, I'm not going to be there today. If you find out the night before, call them the night before. It's so easy now to send a text. There's no excuse for not letting our people, our employers and bosses know when we may have to miss. Okay. So we've talked about some of this stuff. When you're on a job, always stay busy. You know, if it's McDonald's or if it's in the construction business, whatever it is, when you finish the task that you were given, don't go right then and ask your boss, what do you want me to do now? Find something to do. It's not hard. Look around. There's probably something that needs cleaning up. Find something. Stay busy. If you're by every time your boss turns around, you're going, what do you want me to do next? What do you want me to do next? That's not good. Another thing, clean your work up. Okay, number 1, do a good job. Number 2, don't leave a huge mess there. If you did a great job on something and you left a whole bunch of crap just laying around your scrap lumber or whatever, it just kind of leaves it takes the edge off of a good job. Okay, it takes the shine off of it. Speak and dress in an appropriate manner. Always abide by the rules and regulations that your employer set up. You don't have to like it, you just have to do it. And like I said before, don't speak ill of your employer in public. Safety, okay. Safety is so important. And guys, one thing I try to impress upon people your age is this. Sometimes when you get hurt, it doesn't get better, okay? You can be hurt and never get better. I've been hurt. I hurt my back about 5 or 6 years ago. If I live to be 100, my back will be hurt at 100. It's never going to get better, okay? So remember that. And for that reason, work safely. Your family is counting on you to behave safely. I know y'all don't have wives and kids yet, but your mother and your father are dying, begging for you to work safely. They don't want you to get hurt. When you have a wife and a family, they'll be counting on you to bring that paycheck in. So be careful and don't get hurt. It's so important that you be careful. And your employer also, he wants you to work safe because he doesn't want to get you hurt. He doesn't want to have to pay your doctor bills. He doesn't want to have to find someone to replace you while you're at home healing. So most employers understand the importance of safety too. Don't get in a hurry, make good judgment. Here's 4 things that OSHA requires employers to provide their employees with. Appropriate safety training. They have to provide you with appropriate protective equipment, safety glasses, earplugs, hard hats. OSHA has to provide supervision for safety while the work's going on. They should have a safety manager or somebody that's at the job watching over, somebody that knows the safety regulations, making sure they're followed. And they should warn you about specific hazards that they're knowledgeable about. But listen, you need to remember this, okay? This could be on your test. You cannot expect your employer to know about every single hazard on a job site, okay? So remember that. Just because your employer didn't mention it doesn't mean it's not a hazard. Remember that. All right, that is the end of our slideshow that had to do with the orientation of the carpentry trade, NCCER module 27101. Feel free to watch this video as many times as you need to. Like I said, get your worksheet completed, and we will be having a test on this in the very near future. Thank you very much.